Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu news analysis of 24th of June 2021. So now let us quickly see the topics that we are going to analyze for the day. We will first understand a topic that is related to government schemes. Then we will cover a topic related to science and technology. The first two topics are important for the prelims examination. Then we are going to cover three more topics, and these topics are important from the mains exam point of view. So the third topic will be on Indian society and education. Fourth topic will be on Indian society and science and technology. Okay. And fifth topic is on Indian economy. Okay. So these topics are very important for the day. Now let us understand the first topic. Okay. So let us read the heading of this particular topic. The heading says additional food grain scheme to continue till November. Okay. It simply means this particular article is talking about a government scheme. Okay. Which scheme are we talking about? We are talking about Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Okay. So we are talking about Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, this particular scheme. Okay. So recently government has approved that this particular scheme is going to continue till November. Means like they have extended the time period of this particular scheme. So we will understand about this scheme, and we are going to understand about the news item. Okay. So here the cabinet has approved proposal for another 5 months extension. Means this scheme is going to be extended for 5 more months. Okay, to come. So what has happened? Let us understand the context about this particular scheme. The Union Cabinet has approved the allocation of additional food grains to beneficiaries of the National Food Security Act, NFSA 2013. You must be knowing about National Food Security Act, for another 5 months from July to November. Okay. So this is one of the most important schemes of the Government of India, National Food Security Act of 2013. Okay. You should learn about this particular government scheme. It may be asked in the prelims examination. UPSC has multiple times asked, similar schemes in the past, and they may ask similar schemes in the future. Okay. So this is a very relevant scheme provided the COVID-19 situation now. Okay. So the cabinet was, chaired by the Prime Minister of India in that particular meeting, and they have approved the proposal to continue allocating, additional 5 kg of food grain a person. Means like a person is going to get additional 5 kg of food grain, every month under this particular scheme, which is known as Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. And Government of India has launched this particular scheme during the pandemic itself, when COVID-19 has hit the economies around the world. Okay. Why they have launched this particular scheme? So that those people who are facing difficulty to survive, who do not have food with them, okay, the poor people should get, ration support from the government. Okay. For that purpose, the Government of India has launched Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Okay. So you should read in detail about this particular government scheme. Okay. And this particular scheme intends to, reach to the 81.35 crore beneficiaries. And it is going to have a subsidy of 64,031 crore rupees. Okay. So this is about this scheme. Now let us understand little more about this particular scheme. Okay. So as per the government notification, so government says that the central government or the union government is meeting all the expenditure for this particular scheme. They are not getting any support from the state governments. Okay, so the entire expenditure is being made by the central government, and they are going to incur an expenditure of 3,234.85 crore rupees. Okay, and thus the total estimated expenditure borne by the government will be around this many crore rupees. Okay, 67,266.44 crore rupees. Okay, so the total amount of food grain to be distributed was estimated to be around 204 lakh metric tons. Okay, so they are going to distribute these food grains through FPS dealers. What do we mean by FPS dealers? FPS stands for fair price shops. Okay, it stands for fair price shops. Okay, so through fair price shops, government distributes the food grains, okay, under subsidy scheme similar to the scheme that we have talked about now. Okay, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. So that's all about this particular topic. This is important for the prelims exam. Okay, so having understood this, let us take another topic for the day. This is topic number 2. Okay, so let us read the heading for the time being. The heading says gray matter loss seen after COVID. Okay, so brain imaging study shows effect on regions associated with the smell and taste. Okay, so here we need to understand that, like you might have noticed that those people who are affected by COVID-19, okay, this lose the sense of smell and taste if they eat something. So they do not find any kind of taste in anything when they are eating. And similar thing also happens when someone has fever. Okay, so smell and taste generally goes, but in COVID-19 affected patients, this has been the general trend that people lose the sense of smell and taste. And recently research was carried out by researchers from various top universities around the globe, and they have found that like a particular portion of the brain that has gray area, okay, gray area in the brain, that actually is associated with the smell and taste organs. Okay, means like that are associated with the smell and taste organs in the brain. That particular region, okay, has seen some kind of loss in the matter. Okay, so gray matter has seen some loss because of COVID-19. And how they have analyzed this particular study, what they have done, like there was a medical institute, okay, mental medical institute in the United Kingdom. So before COVID-19, various volunteers came over there to get their minds scanned. Okay, and after then, okay, after COVID-19 has impacted, so thousands of people's mind was scanned and their images were available. So after COVID-19, many of those people like who got affected by COVID-19, okay, their brains were reimagined again, means like their brain were scanned again. And of also those patients like who were not affected by COVID-19. Okay, so after analyzing the data before the COVID-19 and after impact of COVID-19 of those people who were affected by COVID-19 and also those people who were not affected by COVID-19, this study has found that generally those people who were affected by COVID-19 have lesser material in the gray area that is associated with the smell and taste. Okay, so this particular study highlights that there might be a direct correlation between COVID-19 impact and the availability of gray matter in that particular portion of the brain. Although this research is in its nascent stage, means like it is not a matured research, but like researchers are like hopeful that in the near future, when they are able to understand like whether that loss of gray matter is directly associated with COVID-19 or whether it is associated with some kind of secondary effects because of COVID-19. Okay, because like there are many patients who were hospitalized and they were old age. So they already have had certain kind of pre-medical conditions like diabetes and other things. So it may be associated with those conditions as well. So researchers are hoping that like in the near future, okay, in the near future when they are able to analyze whether the data are directly associated with COVID-19 or like in future that lost material is recovered or like there is further deterioration of the material or like there is a stability that we can see in the amount of gray material in the mind. So they will be able to come up with more credible data in this particular thing. So we need to understand that in prelims examination, UPSC may ask a question like when a person is affected by COVID-19, so we can see some of these things in that person: loss of smell, loss of taste and loss of gray matter from the brain. Yes, loss of gray matter from the brain can also be, ticked as right option, because, our research has pointed out. So a peer review is still remaining in this particular research, and here the image that you can see, this particular image actually, is a scanned form of the brain, and they have compared, okay, the brain scan of people before COVID-19 and after effect of COVID-19, okay. So that's all about this particular topic. Okay, so having understood this, let us take another topic for the day. This topic is also very important. Okay, this is important for the means examination under Indian society section. Okay, so let us read this heading that says blended learning won't work. Okay, here we need to understand what do we mean by blended learning. Blended learning means like when you are learning offline, when you are learning, in front of the teacher, and okay, you are learning online. When we combine both of them, that is known as blended learning. Okay, so offline teaching means like face-to-face interaction. Online teaching means real-time virtual interaction. Okay, real time means like, it is happening on real-time basis, but it is virtual learning. But when both of these things are combined, means like sometimes it is offline, sometimes it is online, so it will be considered as blended learning. Okay, so having understood what is blended learning, now let us understand what is the context in which this article came, okay, in the Hindu newspaper. Okay, so under this article the author highlights that the educators wish to embrace the UGC's new proposal, but the ground reality is different. Okay, UGC stands for University Grants Commission. Okay, so let us understand the context. It says a recent circular by the University Grants Commission proposes that all higher educational institutions teach 40% of any course online and rest 60% offline. Okay, so the University Grants Commission has proposed that all higher educational institutes can teach 40% of the course online and rest 60% offline. Okay, so if we combine online and offline modes, it is known as blended mode. Okay, so having understood this, let us now go into more details about this particular topic. It is a very important topic for the means exam. Okay, so what are the benefits associated with blended learning? Okay, so blended learning is associated with multiple benefits. One of the benefit is increased student engagement in learning. Okay, so these are part of the proposal by the University Grants Commission. So like they have proposed a concept paper, and according to this concept paper, these are the benefits of blended learning. Okay, one of the benefit is increased student engagement in learning. Okay, second benefit is enhanced student teacher interaction. Third benefit is improved student learning outcomes. Okay, fourth benefit is more flexible teaching and learning environments, among other things. Okay, then it also has other benefits like increased opportunity for institutional collaborations at a distance and enhanced self-learning accruing from blended learning. Okay, so what happens when distance learning is promoted? So like there may be various institutes, some of the institutes may be India based, some may be foreign based, so they can collaborate, and at the same time the self-learning aptitude of the students will increase. Okay, then it shifts the role of the teacher from being a knowledge provider to a coach and mentor. Okay, so what happens, like if we talk about conventional mode of learning, in conventional mode of learning, teacher acts as a knowledge provider. Okay, but here in this case, the teacher will not only act as a knowledge provider, but he will become a coach, and at the same time he will become a mentor for the student. Okay, then this will enable teachers to have greater influence and affect students' learning. Okay, so teachers are going to have greater greater influence, and it will affect students' learning process, as against traditional classroom instructions, which is teacher directed. Okay, so in the classroom interaction, what happens, it is teacher directed. Teacher directs everything, and it is a top down model, means like everything goes from the teacher to the students. But here And the this classical model of learning, okay, the traditional classical model of learning, like has an a component that says one size fits all approach, okay. But if we talk about blended learning, okay, blended learning in short here is written as BL, okay. BL means blended learning. Okay, so in blended learning, it is student driven, bottom up and customized. Okay, so blended learning introduces flexibility in assessment and evaluation patterns as well. Okay, so this is about benefits of blended learning. But what are the challenges? Let us discuss about the challenges of blended learning as well. Okay, so there are many challenges that blended learning faces. Okay, so the first challenge is that like most of the colleges in India are based in rural areas. Okay, so this particular data has been released by the All India Survey on Higher Education, okay, 2019 to 20 report, and this report shows that 60.56%, okay, of the 42,343 colleges in India are located in rural areas. Okay, means more than 60% of the colleges in India are located in rural areas. Okay, and 78.6% are privately managed. Okay, so most of the colleges are in rural areas, and like internet penetration in rural areas is very low. Okay, so they are not that tech savvy. Okay, so teachers are not that tech savvy in rural areas. So this is one of the challenge that the blended learning will face. Okay, so the thing is, second thing is, here only big corporates are better placed to invest in technology and provide such learning. Okay, when big corporates come into picture, only they can support with blended learning program at a faster pace. Okay, as compared to the those colleges that are located in rural areas, because like they have less internet connectivity, they have less digital devices, they have less digital know-how. So lot of problems are associated with blended learning. And if we talk about the second challenge, so according to this particular data reportal statistics, okay, so according to this data reportal statistics, internet penetration in India is only about 45%. Okay, internet penetration in India is only 45% as of January 2021. And this policy will exacerbate the existing geographical and digital divide. Okay, so if this policy is implemented, so it is going to actually increase the digital divide. How? Because the urban areas will find it easier to transit to the blending learning mode, but when we talk about rural areas, the rural areas will face it very difficult to actually embrace the blended learning mode. And so urban areas will flourish with the blended learning and rural areas will be left behind. So it is going to widen the digital divide. Apart from this, the third challenge that we face is that blended learning leaves little room for all round formation of the students. That includes the development of their intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, social quotient, physical quotient and spiritual quotient. Okay, when we talk about offline learning or real time learning, face to face learning, there what happens is students goes to the institute, students interact with the faculties, student interact with the peer groups, student develop lot of characteristics in themselves like intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, social quotient, physical quotient and spiritual quotient. But these things may be missing in blended learning. Okay, in blended learning, so these things may face difficulty in development in a student. Okay, also the concept note, okay, concept note that has been given by the University Grants Commission, it assumes that all students who enter the arena of higher education have similar learning styles. Okay, so the thing is, all students do not have similar learning styles, because students come from multi-dimensional classrooms from their school. Many students are coming from rural areas. Most of these students may be coming from urban areas, but the learning styles of these students are varied. They vary from one group of students with another group of students. But this particular concept note of the University Grants Commission assumes that all students have similar learning styles and they will be able to adapt to the blending learning mode quickly. Okay, but like this particular assumption by the University Grants Commission is very far from truth. Okay, if we talk about education in India, okay, so education in India is driven by teacher centered approach. Okay, education in India is driven by teacher centered approach, and expecting these students to switch over quickly to collaborative and technology enabled learning will be stressful for them and may accentuate the existing dropout rate in higher education. Okay, so what has happened, that dropout rate is very high in India in higher education. Like people somehow complete their schooling and after then many of them drop out. But like if blended learning mode is implemented, people will find it very difficult to adapt to it. Why? Because on one hand we have digital divide, on other hand people like all the students may not afford those digital devices that are necessary for going ahead with the digital learning. Okay, so this is another challenge that like blended learning faces. So what is the way forward? What is the recommendation? Let us understand what is the way forward in this case. Okay, so the government should ensure equity in access, okay, to technology and bandwidth for all higher educational institutes across the country free of cost. Okay, so this is one way forward, that like government should focus on equity in access in technology and bandwidth for all higher educational institutes across India. Okay, and that should be free of cost. Second thing is, we should have a massive digital training program, okay, for teachers. Okay, so there should be massive digital training program for teachers, and even teacher student ratio needs to be readjusted. Okay, so if we talk about offline learning, what happens in the classroom, the generally the student teacher ratio in school level is 1:4, like one teacher for 40 students, 1:40. Okay, but what happens in digital learning, this particular thing needs to be readjusted to suit the requirement from different type of classes. Okay, so this may require appointment of a greater number of teachers. Okay, if we are moving to blended mode, we may be required to appointment of greater number of teachers, means greater number of teachers must be recruited for this particular purpose. And the design of the curriculum should be decentralized. Okay, at this point of time, the design is based on top down approach, means like the design of the curriculum is set by the highest authority, then it is applicable throughout India. But like this particular article suggests that it should be bottom up approach. Okay, it should not follow top down approach. And if we talk about other things, so they say more power in such education related policy making should be vested with the state governments. Okay, at this point of time, more power is there with the central government, but here this article suggests that education related policy making should have more power at the state level itself. Okay, so we should switching over from a teacher centric mode of learning at schools to blended learning mode at the tertiary level will be difficult for learners. Okay, so what is happening at a school level, we have primary schooling, then we have secondary schooling. After a student completes his or her secondary schooling, then they come to the tertiary learning mode, means like they come to the higher educational institutes. Okay, so the thing is here switching from teacher centric mode at the school level to the blended learning mode at the higher educational level is going to be little difficult and it's going to take time. So government must think of overhauling the curriculum at the school level as well. Okay, so there should be an overhaul in the curriculum at the school level so that we can make the students aware of the blended learning mode at the school level itself, so that it becomes easier for the student to embrace the transition from the school to the college. Okay, Finally, periodical discussions, feedback mechanism and support services at all levels, okay, would revitalize the implementation of the learning programs of the National Education Policy 2020, and blended learning lead to the actualization of the three cardinal principles of education policy, okay. So what are the three cardinal principles of education policy? They are access, equity and quality, okay. So these are the three cardinal principles of education policy: access, equity and quality, okay. So this is all about this particular article. Once you read this article, it will help you to answer a question related to blended learning, okay. UPSC may ask a question similar to that in your examination, so you should be ready with this article, okay. Now with this, now let us move to the next topic for the day. This topic says the gender technology gap has to end, okay. Now they are talking about gender technology gap, okay. We have in the previous article we have talked about, you know, like we have talked about this particular thing, that, you know, digital divide, okay. Now we are talking about gender technology gap. In the previous article we have talked about urban rural divide in digital access to technology, but here we are talking about gender technology gap. Means like on one hand there are men and boys, okay, on other hand there are women and girls, and do they have, you know, similar access to the technology, okay. We are going to understand these things through this particular article, and this is a very important topic for Indian society and health related issues, okay. We are going to discuss how, okay. So the author suggests that there needs to be a feminist approach to technology to solve the social impacts of the South Asian COVID-19 crisis, okay. So this particular article has reference to feminist approach to technology, and at the same time this particular article talks about how we can tackle the COVID-19 crisis in the South Asian region. You must be knowing that India is a South Asian nation, okay. So India is in the South Asia, okay. So let us understand the context in which this article came. So the author says, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has swept South Asia in recent months, existing inequalities have come to light. One aspect stands out: access to technology has ever been crucial to ensuring public health and safety, okay. So now let us understand little more about it, okay. So here the author suggests, like, you know, there is limited or no access to technology when it comes to access to technology for women, okay, for girls, okay. So the author is saying there is limited or no access to technology. How? Let us understand. So around the world, information and access to healthcare have largely moved online, and those left behind face grave disadvantages, okay. So here what happened after the COVID-19, okay, many countries has imposed lockdown, and how we started getting information now? We started getting most of the information related to COVID-19 or health related things through online mode, okay. And those people who were left out from information through online mode, so they were at the risk of, you know, they were at the risk of being affected by COVID-19, okay. So according to the Global Systems for Mobile Communication, in short it is known as GSMA, okay, estimates. So this particular organization has estimated that over 390 million women, okay, over 390 million women in low and middle income countries do not have internet access, okay. So if we talk about low and middle income countries, over 390 million you know, women do not have internet access. So these people will be left out from digital information. South Asia has more than half of these women, with only 65% owning a mobile phone, okay. So when we talk about South Asia including India, so, you know, they have more than half of these women, and only 65% owns a mobile phone, okay. Now let us understand a little more, okay, related to limited or no access. In India, only 14.5% of women were reported to be using the internet, Okay, so in India only 14.5% of women, means like less than 15% of women are using internet. Okay, and 85% of women do not use internet in India. Okay, so that is one thing. This divide is deepened by the earlier mandates to register online to get vaccination appointment. Okay, you might be knowing about this CoWIN portal. Okay, so CoWIN portal is a portal of the government of India, where like earlier you had to register to get, you know, to get an appointment for COVID-19 vaccination. But recently this particular registration mandate has been, you know, dissolved. Now you can go directly, you know, so that's the thing, to get vaccinated. So recent local data revealed that nearly 17% more men than women have been vaccinated. Okay, so in India what happened, if let's consider there were 50% of women who got vaccinated, so 67% of men got vaccinated. Okay, so 17% more men got vaccinated than women. Okay, while improving awareness of how to access vaccination and help are crucial to protecting women, the mindset around digital technology and device ownership must also change. Okay, so as you know, like, you know, it is very important and very crucial for everyone to access information through all means. Okay, it includes also digital means of, you know, access of technology. So if women and girls do not have the cell phones with them, if they do not have internet access, so what will happen? They will be left behind from digital information. If they are left behind digital information, so they will not be able to access those information that are crucial for health related data. Okay, and these gaps are prevent women and LGBTQIA people from accessing critical services. In India, Bangladesh and Pakistan, for example, fewer women than men received the necessary information to survive COVID-19. Okay, in these countries, India, Bangladesh and Pakistan, very less number of women got information to survive COVID-19, but more men, you know, received this information to survive COVID-19. So vaccine registration usually requires a smartphone or a laptop. Men and boys are thus more likely to get timely information and register than women and girls. Okay, so the concept of feminism goes beyond the rights of women. It is about way of life. Okay, so when we talk about concept of feminism, it goes beyond the rights of women. Okay, in simple terms, it means being inclusive, democratic, transparent, egalitarian and offering opportunities for all. We can call it equality through innovation. Then feminist technology is sometimes called femtech. Okay, feminist technology is also called femtech. Is an approach to technology and innovation that inclusive, informed and responsive to the entire community with all its diversity. Okay, so this is the thing. So if you talk about feminist technology, which is femtech, it means technology and innovation that is inclusive, informed and responsive. Okay, it is inclusive, informed and responsive to the entire community with all its diversity. Okay, so that is, you know, that is about this particular thing. Now let us understand how do we create an equitable future for all. How do we create the equitable future? So there are few steps to an equitable future. One of the step is, you know, through gender, like, so what they have done, there is a, you know, forum which is known as Gender Equality Forum. Okay, so under Gender Equality Forum, they have created some goals. One of the goal is to double the number, okay, double the number of women and girls working in technology and innovation. And by 2026, the aim is to reduce the gender digital divide and ensure universal digital literacy while investing in feminist technology and innovation to support women's leadership as innovators. Okay, so these are some of the aims of Gender Equality Forum. They want to double the number of women and girls who are working in technology and innovation. Second thing is, they want to reduce the gender digital divide. Okay, they want to ensure universal digital literacy. Okay, and they want to invest in feminist technology, okay, and innovation. And if we talk about, they have, you know, this UN environment or UN Women. UN Women has other initiatives also. Digital empowerment programs and partnerships such as Equals. Okay. In this particular partnership, what happens? The International Girls in the ICT Day celebration, okay, across the region by the UN Women and the International Telecommunication Union, they hope that more girls will choose STEM. STEM means science, technology, engineering and mathematics as their academic focus to enter digital technology careers and aspire to be the next leaders in the digital technology. Okay. So UN Women and International Telecommunication Union, they together are putting efforts that these girls and women, they should choose STEM as their career option. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Okay. So if they choose STEM, so they will be, you know, the next future innovators in the digital arena. Now let us understand a little more about it. And if we talk about what we see today is technologies that are available to the lay persons, okay. So the technologies that are available to us, they are created by man, they cater to the needs of man and they hardly, okay, address the necessities of everyone, okay. So this is the viewpoint that is, you know, written by the authors over here. And according to the Global Systems for Mobile Communication, GSMA, closing the gender gap in mobile internet users in low and middle income countries would increase the GDP by 700 billion US dollar over the next 5 years. Okay. So this particular organization, which is Global Systems for Mobile Communication, it has predicted, okay, or it is anticipating that if we close the, you know, gender gap in mobile internet users, it is going to increase the GDP by $700 billion in low and middle income countries. Okay. So women and girls are the largest consumer groups left out of technology and could be the major profit drivers. Okay. So this is the thing. For example, the App Store. So they have given an example that if you talk about App Store, so they have, you know, in the App Store there are about 2 million applications and most of which cater to the young man. Okay. So, so the author is suggesting like we should come up with, you know, those applications that, you know, cater to the women also. Like there should be a built-in feature on mobile phones such as an emergency button that connects the women to our law enforcement if they face unwanted street harassment. Okay. So this is one of the suggestions. They are saying that most of the applications that are there in the, you know, mobile phones, okay, or in the App Store, they are designed to cater to the needs of the young man. There should be some applications that actually, you know, cater to the young women or women at large. And one of such suggestion is like we can have a button. That button, like whenever a woman is in distress, whenever a woman needs some help, she should, you know, simply click on that and that should, you know, connect to the law enforcement agencies so that they can provide help on a timely basis. Women and girls do not have the same access to these technologies and men and boys as men and boys, nor are they available at the same price. Okay. So this is the thing. So this particular article puts forward a very strong case study related to the, you know, digital divide in gender. Okay. Gender technology gap or, you know, gender digital divide. So what is the way forward now? The way forward is like we should not, you know, reinvent the everything. Okay. We should only put forward those technologies. We should, you know, embrace those technologies that are gender sensitive in nature, that cater to the needs of all people irrespective of their gender. And we now have the opportunity to shape our future in a way that is more equal, diverse and sustainable in the world of technology, in the aftermath of medical and socio-economic devastation in the past. Okay. So this particular thing, COVID-19 has caused huge socio-economic devastation and you know, health related, you know, problems for people. Now is the time to act. The right thing to do is also the smart thing to do. Okay. So these are the some points, some views that the author has put forward. Okay, in your free time we are going to share this PDF also. In your free time you can just download and read this thing. You will be able to answer a question related to this, and there is a likelihood that UPSC may ask a question related to, you know, gender digital divide. So having understood this, now let us understand another topic for the day. This topic is important for the mains examination under Indian economy section. Let us see the heading for this particular article that says a recovery path for airlines. Okay, as you know, because of COVID-19, okay, most of the airlines had to be shut down because international travelers who were, you know, traveling from one country to another, most of them were also carrying COVID-19 with them, and that posed a risk to the population wherever these travelers were going. Okay, so like most of the airlines had to be shut down temporarily, and it became very difficult for them to survive during the COVID-19 pandemic. So now the author is suggesting, okay, a restart strategy for the airlines so that they can have a recovery path, okay, to recover their operations, and so that like they can start running the operations as before COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so what is the context? The context, it says the airlines have been battling uncertainty since March 2020. Why March 2020 is written? Because in March 2020 the government of India has imposed nationwide lockdown. So after then, you know, these airline companies had also, you know, shut down their operations. In April 2020, 2/3 of the global fleet of the aircraft was grounded, but essential operations were not halted. Okay, by raising private capital, receiving government support, cutting costs to the bone, and flying more to transport goods, etc., many airlines have managed to prevent bankruptcy. Okay, many such airlines were able to survive during that particular time by, you know, seeking a lot of help from different areas and by diversifying their business operations. Okay, so if they have to restart the operations, what they need to do? Okay, so the government and industry should collaborate to develop sustainable restart strategy. Okay, government and the industry means airline industry. Okay, such a strategy should use a science-based approach and specify how nations must deal with vaccinated and non-vaccinated passengers. Okay, so this particular restart strategy should be based on science-based approach, and they should deal, okay, the nations must deal with vaccinated and non-vaccinated passengers, and how quarantine and testing measures will be adjusted, and how appropriate electronic capture of health data to facilitate international travel can be ensured. Okay, it is possible to have a flexible policy. Okay, so the author is suggesting that we should, you know, have a flexible policy. Tools can be developed to continually monitor and the risk profiles of different regions. Okay, so the author is suggesting a technology driven solution for meeting the risk that can come, you know, in operations of the airline industry. Now, if we want to restart the operation, what India should do? For India, the large domestic aviation market is the savior. Okay, so India has a large domestic market, so we have, you know, huge number of domestic travelers. So these domestic travelers will actually increase the revenue of the airline sector once it is opened properly. Okay, so the author is suggesting that collaboration among states will be critical to ensure the effective restart of the aviation industry. Different testing and quarantine requirements have already created a lot of confusions. Okay, so author is saying, like, you know, there are different quarantine requirements, there are, you know, different there is a lot of confusion among states. Okay, so as done in a natural calamity protocols, a framework establishing clear rules, processes and standards need to be in place in according to the situation. Okay, so the author is saying, like, you know, as we are doing in case of a natural calamity, what we do, we make a proper framework to handle the calamity. So similarly, we should have a standard protocol and a standard framework to deal with calamity like COVID-19. Here the author is saying that local actions need to be taken whenever risks are identified. Okay, and it is time to focus on substituting blanket restrictions with testing, vaccination and limited quarantine measures. Okay, so the author is saying that like we should not put blanket restrictions on every sector in the economy. Okay, so we should have limited restrictions, and these restrictions must be must be in accordance, like must be in complementary to testing, vaccination and limited quarantine measures. Okay, test and vaccines will jointly play a key role in the industry's recovery. Okay, so these are the things that the author says. Apart from this, the author also says that the Indian Council of Medical Research, which is in short known as ICMR, it has approved a self-testing COVID-19 kit. It is called as CoviSelf. Okay, this is a very important information. It may be asked in the prelims examination. What is CoviSelf? CoviSelf is a self-testing COVID-19 kit. Okay, so this particular kit can be used by an individual to see whether he is COVID positive or COVID negative. Okay, so CoviSelf is the application. Okay, this is self-testing COVID-19 kit. Okay, so at last the author talks about vaccine passport and the way forward. Okay, so digital travel passes and vaccine passports may be another solution. The author is saying like digital travel passes and vaccine passports may be another solution, but like these solutions will only work if there is a standard norm that all countries recognize a particular vaccination as a standard COVID vaccination. At this point of time, there are many countries who recognize one particular vaccine and they do not approve other vaccines. So that's why this particular digital passport creates vaccine passports creates this particular difficulty. So at this point of time, there some of the COVID-19 vaccines that are being used in India, these vaccines are hardly recognized by 72 to 74 countries in the world. Okay, so that standard framework for recognition of the COVID-19 vaccines by different regions and different countries is an important aspect. Okay, apart from this, in the present scenario, a network plan needs to be rethought and reworked. Okay, as there may be more possibility of different segments in different parts of the network opening and closing depending on the uncertainty of the pandemic and the demand. Okay, so this is the thing. Apart from this, the author says if the aviation industry has to recover, then the government needs to come up with consistent policies based on evidence, and industry should do whatever it can to reinstate passenger confidence, embrace new ways of making revenue and new operational demands. Okay, so this is the call of the hour. Okay, that all the companies, all the aviation industry should come out of their comfort zone to actually revitalize their sector and to restart with a new strategy. Okay, so that's all that I had to discuss for the day. Okay, in the Hindu newspaper analysis. Thank you everyone for attending this session. I hope you have a great day ahead.
Live online classes are as effective as offline classes. Ethics with S. Ansari remains the best ever choice. Do you know that ethics paper is the only paper in general studies that pays more with less efforts? One can easily secure 130 to 140 marks. Lukman IAS is a well-established name since 2014 for ethics paper. We offer 3 types of courses: Ethics Foundation course, Ethics Case Studies and Ethics Test Series. Since 2015, Lukman IAS students have maintained the records of securing the highest marks in this paper. Ethics Foundation course is starting from 21st of June 2021. Classes will be for 4 days in a week from 11 AM to 1:30 PM. The course duration is of 60 days and the videos will be available for 75 days. There will be 43 classes, of which 35 classes will be focused on theory and concept building and 8 classes will be dedicated for case studies. There will be over 180 case studies and 3 tests. Since 4 months are left for prelims, one can easily finish the ethics paper before prelims itself, and it's a good opportunity. So why to wait? Contact us today for more information.